Howdy again everyone, and today I have something that's incredibly neat, or just a bit of a cliche depending on your point of view, the Zenjix Soratama 72. It is a special filter to give you that cool crystal ball effect in your photos, but this time suspended in mid-air. It's much easier to use and more mysterious looking than an actual crystal ball that you've had to balance on some ledge without it falling down and smashing to pieces. This is the kind of gimmicky thing I really love to play around with. Its official price is $59 US, although it tends to be more expensive than that wherever you can find it, more like $80. Let's take a look at the filter itself and how to get it to actually work on your camera. The filter itself is dead simple. It is made of glass, so you should be pretty careful with it. I recommend purchasing a separate 72mm lens cap to put onto it to keep it clean and free of scratches. It's a shame Zenjix didn't include one themselves actually. The filter thread size of it is 72mm. If you're attaching it to a lens with a smaller filter diameter than that, and most people will be, then you'll need to purchase some step-up adapter rings. However, if you want to attach it to a lens with a larger filter thread, like this Sigma lens with its 77mm diameter, then you will need step-down adapter rings instead. The 50mm Nikon macro lens I was testing with here had an unusual 46mm filter size, which I didn't have an adapter ring for, but simply holding the filter into the lens worked perfectly well for me. In order for the effect to work, you'll need to use a lens with macro capability. Remember, that little glass ball is tiny. You can either use a proper macro lens with it, like I'm doing here, or you can use a regular lens with macro extension tubes attached to the rear, like this standard 50mm lens, and I have a video all about extension tubes linked in the description below if you want to find out more about them. Depending on what lens you're going to be using, you will almost certainly need extra 72mm wide spacer or extension rings before the filter. The Nikon 50mm macro lens I was tested with here needed 90mm of tubing plus the step-up rings, whereas this longer 105mm lens needed 150mm of extension rings. Zenjix sell those spacer rings for a ridiculous amount of money, considering that they're just metal rings. You can occasionally find much cheaper ones on Amazon or eBay if you look hard enough, which is what I did. You could probably find some way of coming up with your own solution at home too, maybe cut out a Pringles tube or something like that. Whatever you choose to do though, the neatest solution is to use a wider angle macro lens here, or a wider angle lens with macro extension tubes behind it. Also, a wider angle lens won't blow your backgrounds out of focus too much. It's your creative decision whether that's something you want, but personally I much preferred the look of the wider angle background here. It's much more interesting. As you can see here, stopping down your aperture makes a huge difference to the final image, unless you really want the background and the edge of the ball to become totally blurred beyond recognition. Once you've got the filter properly attached to the right kind of macro lens, it's incredibly easy to shoot with. Even if you're using a lens with a longer focal length, you don't need very fast shutter speeds, which means that stopping down your aperture for the best effect isn't a problem. Autofocusing wasn't a problem on any camera I used either. You want your focus point to be right in the middle of the glass ball and then fire away. And when shooting video, the filter is a complete and utter trip. I'd love to do some experimental video making with this lens, it looks amazing. By the way, if your camera or lens has image stabilization, then you will want to turn that off when using this filter. As you can see here, it gets really confused and starts jerking around. So yeah, I basically love this thing, although I probably won't end up using it all that often. Once you've actually got it working, with all your extension tubes sorted out, it's dead easy to use and gets you some very dramatic images. Zenjix also make an SP version of the Soratama, which is designed for smartphones, and there are some other versions you can see on their website too. If this is your kind of thing, then get one and have fun, and remember, it'll work best with wider angle macro lenses.